Hi everyone, I'm Sophie Milburn, editor of the MSP Channel Insights portfolio, and I'm joined today by Mike from Easy to Mark. Would you be able to kind of introduce yourself, your role at the company, and give our audience a bit of a quick overview of what you do?
So Mike Anderson, I'm in charge of our indirect business globally for Easy DMark, and what that means is a giant community of MSPs, 3,000 plus and growing. We're the market leader for MSPs in the DMark space, and run the business. Easy DMark is an analytics and deliverability and insight platform for firms to be able to, see the control of their email security as it relates to DMark, and then make sure messages are being authenticated and ending up in the inbox where they belong versus spam or reject or, being impersonated. So all of that to say, hey, I sell stuff.
But I'm sure it's more complicated than that. So, email authentication standards have existed for years, but adoption has been historically quite slow. So, from what you're seeing in the market, what's been holding organizations back, and why is this becoming such a priority now?
Yeah, good two-part question there. Great two-part question. And so for a long time, DMARC was optional. And so people, were supposed to do it so you couldn't be spoofed, and then somebody impersonates you and goes and defrauds somebody else. That happens every day. You read the stories, or somebody gets locked down, or a virus is spread, or whatever the case may be. A bad actor impersonates somebody. But that was optional for the entire time. And so the email sending providers 2 years ago, starting with Google, Yahoo, and AOL,
Right.
said, hey, we're going to make these policies mandatory, which means you're going to have an actual policy filled in. And for a long time, nobody had a policy. And that policy was just none. So even if somebody spoofed you, what the policy none means, they're just still going to let that email go through. Well, a year ago, year and a half ago, all of the sending providers, including adding Microsoft and Apple, about 97% of the world's traffic carriers, decided they were going to get together and make DMARC mandatory, which means you had to create the configurations. And we'll not get into all that, all the engineering gearhead stuff. And then you had to move your security policy off of the none to a quarantine or reject. And so that means that every single sending source a company has to be configured correctly to be able to move your policy, or you will effectively quarantine or reject all your own email. You don't ever want to do that if you're trying to operate a business. So the precept behind what has caused the movement is that mandatory policy. And so now everybody's got to do it, or they've seen their email deliverability or inboxing go way down. And so what the reluctance is, hey, how do I figure out all these sources? Because, we may have a big enterprise, and I may have 30 sending sources. I don't even know what all I have.
Right.
And if we move our policy and reject somebody from marketing or invoicing or HR, or, that's not going to be good for the business. So it's been kind of nebulous and complicated, and we simplify that whole process.
Fantastic. I didn't know that. I didn't know it wasn't mandatory until semi recently. That's
Yeah,
every day's
yeah,
a school day.
it's been good news for us for sure.
I can imagine. For kind of organizations that are just kind of starting their DMARC journey, what are the most common challenges that they might run into, and how does your company kind of help simplify what can sound like quite a complex process?
Yeah, and so there's a couple of things. When DMARC was implemented, the reports came out and they were in XML format. So it was just lines of code that would be emailed back to either the IT provider or the corporate office. And unless you're Neo from the Matrix and you can turn code into a picture like he did in the first movie, you know what I'm talking about
I
when
do.
he's in the mall. Those reports are worthless. What am I going to do with XML code? So our platform takes that XML code, ingests it, and then gives a clear picture, a console, visibility, command, and control of
Right.
the environment, what's good, what's not good, and exactly how to fix it. And it makes their life easy. It's in the name, Easy DMark. And so that's how we help people go to market and solve their problems.
Fantastic. So it's just been about much more like user friendly.
Way more. It's like, if you had a $100 million business and you wanted to run it on an Excel spreadsheet versus,
Mhm.
Oracle financials, you've got your options there. We both know which one's going to be easier to operate. And so our providers get the same feeling.
Fantastic. And businesses today are relying on a growing number of SaaS platforms and third-party email senders. So how does that kind of expanding ecosystem affect domain security? And what should IT providers be kind of thinking about when managing that complexity?
Yeah, and so this goes back to that visibility part, that assessment part. And so what our platform does is it will ingest all of those sendings, those third-party sending platforms, and give you a list of who's sending on the domain behalf, so that the IT provider can then go in and go, okay, this one's good, but this one's not good. And then we give them the source code on exactly how to get all of those sending sources configured, making their life a whole lot easier. Your other option was just, okay, let's call every one of these source providers one at a time, try to wait on hold, look at through their wikis or Q&A and try to figure out the configuration. And that process took forever. And so we simplified that, documenting thousands and thousands and thousands of sources in our platform so the IT provider doesn't have to go look it up, so they can assess, evaluate, and see what's good, what's not good, and then instantly fix it for the customer.
I guess there's often that kind of concern that tightening email authentication could disrupt legitimate emails. So how can organizations improve protection against kind of spoofing and phishing while maintaining strong deliverability in that
Yeah,
sense?
it's that exact analysis layer. So again, like we talked about earlier, you never want to just change your security policy to quarantine or reject without all of those sources configured correctly, or you're going to quarantine and reject legitimate sources. And so with this visibility, you can see exactly where you're at, what the source is. When you configure it, then it'll report, update, and tell you, hey, you're moving from red over to green, and you're all set to lock down your policy. But this gives you an SOP where you can follow step by step, so you don't necessarily have to be guessing or trying to understand what that update policy is. It'll move it through for you in the stages.
Right. So from your kind of perspective, what would the biggest maybe like opportunities be today for IT providers helping their customers strengthen their email security and their domain protection?
Absolutely. Absolutely. DMARC is a service. And so there's a reason why we're the market leader, because, a number of reasons. We won't really go into that. I mean, we can pat ourselves on the back all day long, but
Always.
getting clear visibility, line of sight to that, what's good and what's not good, and then how to fix it, is one thing. So that's the one thing. What makes Easy DMARC the market leader, and how we help our IT providers go to market, is we can take what has traditionally been known as the data or the configuration, and we move that to the back, and then we move the opportunity to the front. And so our platform really allows our IT providers to go prospect for new business using commonly available public DNS signals, to pull that in, get a risk assessment report, and then automate it into reporting and then delivery and lead gen, and all of that. And so there's really two components, right? Nobody is really going to sell anything until you get an opportunity. And so we really allow our providers to get an opportunity. We are the market leader in showing them signals, high intent signals, where there is opportunity to then go have a conversation with somebody where you can really address what their actual issue is.
And you mentioned automation there, and I do kind of dread to say it and ask it in every single interview, but I kind of have to with, AI and automation. What kind of role is that playing with what you're seeing, and how is that
Yeah,
evolving at the
yeah,
minute?
and absolutely. And so, reporting, and then standards, and current updating, and then our platform is what's called, that automation layer is really considered the most frictionless platform in the industry for DMARC assessment. And so when you're an IT operator, right, you don't want to buy a new platform, put it in your business, and then it just broadsides you or blocks your progress because it's
Yeah.
too complex, or your SOPs are way off. And so our platform really just sets down in the operator layer very efficiently. It connects with their PSA, their management platform. And then at the core, this is all DNS configuration, right? And so we integrate vertically with all the top DNS providers, so that when you're doing the configurations, you can simply put those in our platform and it will send the settings into the DNS, making it really frictionless. And then finally, on that back end part where you're generating leads, right, it will send those leads right into your CRM so that you can automate a report, attach it to, a campaign in your CRM and kick it off, rinse and repeat with very little friction. And, part of, the big problem with MSPs is not all, hey, they don't know how to configure things. That's usually these guys are all tech guys, but it's the sales part that we've really, really stepped up our game and what separates us from all the other providers in the market.
Yeah. You mentioned being kind of repeating there. What kind of changes it from being a one-off project to sort of helping email security turn into kind of a repeatable service?
Yeah, yeah, and we definitely recommend, that holy grail, that MRR added into your stack or bundle. And our platform will work with any way, whether you want to charge for assessments, break fix, the monitoring, build it in all in one package. This will slide into any monetization strategy that the IT operator has. And so what you end up seeing is continual reports and threat analysis that you really want to show your customers, hey, you're being threatened on the outside, all these spoofing threats from these flags from all over the world, right? So when your customer says, hey, why do we continue to pay for this when we've already fixed it? You can show them that threats and go, hey, look, that these guys are trying to kick in your door. You might want to let me continue to protect you. The only way you can do that, of course, is monitor it day to day, month to month, and that costs money. And so we teach them to use that type of language with their prospects, and the prospects are usually like, oh, once they see those threats, and keep me safe. That's fine. We'll pay this little bit of money to stay safe.
Yeah, I've been having those conversations quite a lot recently of almost that it's only noticed when things go wrong. And when you're doing everything right, it's like, well, they don't see all the threats. So it's that education piece, isn't it, of letting them know what is going on behind the scenes so they know how much the MSP is actually doing.
Yeah, and the platform will give them a threat vector, and we attach flags to it, country of origin flags. And so when you see that threat vector, you'll see the good, everything's fixed and aligned, but there is a threat platform analysis, and so you want to show that to your prospect, and all are very effective visuals to keep your customer right where they're at.
That makes sense. And then always my favorite question is sort of like looking ahead to maybe the next, say, 3 to 5 years. How do you see email security evolving, and what role do you think the channel will play in helping organizations within that?
Yeah, so we see a big, and you've seen this in with other vendors out in the market. The platform play, we will have probably the most comprehensive email infrastructure platform play, or one of them. It will be, including a visibility layer of all of the providers that we talked about, the outside senders, going into a layer of assessment, control, and reporting to be able to then, operationalize that on the back end for the customer. But there's a lot of things that deal with that, right? So there's DMARC, which is a foundational layer, and then of course people have, deliverability and certificates and other things that affect email flows. And so having one comprehensive view panel where you can assess, model, control, and then report. I think, a platform play like that for somebody like us could be in the future here in the coming year or so. But that clearly is the trend, these platform plays.
Yeah, it helps with all those things like tools for all workload, all of those things that
It makes it easy. And these things just all fit together. It's not some, real weird connection. All of that DMARC and deliverability and visibility and certificates and all that, that's kind of right on that layer, fundamental email control layer.
yeah. Well, I'm excited to see what happens. I'll definitely be keeping an eye. Thank you for your time.
Man, I really appreciate it, Sophie. Take care.